And I get back and I see that Trump's announced he's negotiating with the Iranians, and the Iranians said, no, we're not. And the U.S. media believe the Iranians. So it's like, all right, the Iranians do lie, guys. They said they had no intentions of building a nuclear weapon. They just last week said they sunk an aircraft carrier of ours. So obviously they're lying to look tough. And how would they know who's negotiating? The Israelis just killed one of the IRGC leaders who was living in a tent in the woods. I don't think the left hand knows what the right hand's doing, okay?
So following up on yesterday's events and the quasi-ceasefire, if you want to call it that, we're now witnessing a pretty interesting humiliation ritual where the mainstream media is being forced to admit that actually Donald Trump was not just randomly or arbitrarily making things up. Yes, real negotiations are happening between America and Iran, obviously, and it was never a good idea to be using Iranian state propaganda as a supposedly credible or journalistic source for what is actually happening. I know that seems like common sense, but this is actually what we witnessed, where the media spent the past 24 hours attempting to deny that America and Iran were even talking because, hey, some Iranian minister or state television or a Twitter account not even ran by the actual government official allegedly said so, and therefore because Tehran said it, it must be true. Now, it really begs the question for me, I understand you guys think Donald Trump is just a liar, he's the evil orange man or something, but why exactly he would just randomly go out and pretend that they were negotiating even when they weren't seems like a pretty odd or strange thing to say, right? It's just sort of strange there. But, this is the narrative they wanted to paint. They tried to say that, oh, Taco Trump was just arbitrarily ending the war because he knows America is losing. And, that's not true. There's no negotiations. Iran has just defeated us, something like that. I don't even get it. I don't know what they're getting at. But obviously, we have known throughout the course of this conflict that mainstream media is attempting to effectively run cover for Tehran. And when they use Iranian state sources as actual sources, I think that further backs it up. And it's not all that lacking in transparency as to what's really happening here. But nonetheless, guys, in today's video, I want to bring you the latest updates on this, right? We'll show you what the media tried to claim was reliable. And then now even CNN coming out and admitting indeed, yes, oh, Iran now just told us there are negotiations. Yeah, really surprising how that works. Again, guys, what did you expect? By the way, as Trump even pointed out yesterday, obviously the Iranian government is in disarray. It's decentralized chaos. And so maybe some random state propagandist doesn't get the information sensitive from the government officials immediately within the next couple of hours. What did you guys think? How did you guys think this was going to end? But anyways, we'll bring you that as well as Trump's apparent latest updates on the talks between America and Iran and what has happened since. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. That's the best way to support our work, and it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And that said, let's just recap briefly where we were yesterday, where, for example, this guy Ghalibaf, who the media alleges was the Iranian official in question that America was having secret negotiations with, well, he allegedly from his Twitter account that it appears he's not even running himself. It actually looks like many of these government officials' supposed social medias are just being run by like propaganda ministers or something, but went out publicly and denied that negotiations had actually happened. So he said the following, quote, Iranian people demand complete and remorseful punishment of the aggressors. All Iranian officials stand firmly behind their supreme leader and the people until this goal is achieved. Right? Now, bear in mind, this was supposedly the moderate, reasonable person there that, Trump, they claimed Trump was talking to, and the media was saying, ha, 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 look, Trump is so badly owned. He was so wrong about this. This person publicly issued a statement of defiance. That means totally that reflects what they're saying in private or what they're actually doing in the country.
Mohammed Val in Tehran, I'm just hearing that that Iran's Fars news agency says and reports this very moment that there is no direct communication between Iran and the United States. So as per Donald Trump's message, there is some form of communication, Iran, U.S. speaking in some fashion. He didn't say how, but he did seem to say it was progressing positively. we're now learning from the Iranians, or at least from FARS, that the communication, if it is happening, is not direct.
Again, so ridiculous. It's really funny how in America, usually when politicians speak, we assume that they're lying. But apparently when Iranian politicians speak in a country with no political freedom, surely they're telling the truth, right? It's just, what did you guys expect to happen? But anyways, he further goes on to state that no negotiations have been held with the U.S., and fake news is used to manipulate the financial and oil markets and escape the quagmire in which the U.S. and Israel are trapped. And of course, expectedly, a bunch of the media, a bunch of the liberals ran with this and were like, oh, see, look, Trump was lying. We knew it. The Iranians are doing great. And if you don't believe me, here is literally figures of the media going out and publicly stating that they believe the Iranian government more than they believe Donald Trump. I'm not making that up. Take a listen.
Iran, like, they are an authoritarian regime who's known to lie. But, like, I'm confused. What is going on? Help me. Calm me down.
Well, I tend to believe Iran more than I do Donald Trump, because he could not acknowledge the truth, even when it is, he's slapped in the face with it repeatedly.
You probably thought I was joking, didn't you? Nope, they're actually saying this. The media seriously believes that the Iranian government is a more reliable source than Donald Trump. And keep in mind, that's coming from John Brennan, who formerly used to be a director of the CIA. So tells you a lot about the people we used to have staffing our intelligence agencies. I don't know. Maybe that's why he did so badly at the job, because he believed everything that the Iranian state media said in public. I mean, just what a ridiculous position to be having. But again, this was the narrative, right? They've been trying to say the entire time the negotiations aren't real. Trump is completely making it up. And it's really funny because I guess their argument would be that, well, Trump has a incentive to make it seem like he's winning the whole situation. And so, yeah, Iran wants to talk to us and we're doing a great job. And sure, politicians lie, leaders lie. What I find to be hilarious, though, is they don't apply that same logic to, I don't know, the public words supposedly of Iranian leaders. Yeah. Why might Iran deny that negotiations are happening? Why might Iran issue public statements of defiance? Might that not also be an indication because they are trying to portray that they're winning? I mean, seriously, it really is common sense. But as I said, right, the mainstream media is actually applying a greater standard of scrutiny for American politicians than they do even those of the Iranian regime. You notice how all the Iranian leaders just seem to get a pass nowadays from the media? So that way they can go to Tehran and interview the Iranian foreign minister or something like that. You notice every time that guy is on TV and NBC or whatever is talking to him, they never follow up. They never ask him any hard questions. But sure, you interview a Western politician. Oh, all these follow-ups. Oh, you know, you're lying. What are you talking about? But interviewing Iran, sir, thank you for coming on, sir. Please tell us why you're winning this war, actually, sir. It's ridiculous. You know, it's nothing new from the media. It's the same behavior as Vietnam, as I've been saying for a long time. They've always been trying to undermine war efforts for a number of reasons. But take a look now at the pretty hilarious moment where CNN and the media, after 24 hours of trying to say that Trump was lying, are forced to admit that Trump was actually telling the truth, because this morning, Iranian sources did come to the media and confirm, yes, negotiations were indeed happening. Take a listen.
The Situation Room, we're now learning from a senior Iranian source that there has been an outreach between the U.S. and Iran. The source tells CNN that this was initiated by Washington. With us now, CNN military analyst, retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Cedric Leighton, and CNN global affairs analyst Kim Dozier. Kim, what do you make of this development?
The U.S. just blinked. I mean, we already saw it in the series of changing tweets or truths from President Trump. You know, one day he's like, the war's about to end. The next day, we're going to obliterate your energy facilities. And then the next day, we think there are talks.
And you have to appreciate, too, how quickly the narrative immediately shifts, because first they tried to deny that negotiations were actually happening. And now that they've been royally humiliated, because even Iran is confirming that they are, the new narrative is Trump blinked, right? America caved. Taco Trump. Look, he surrendered to Iran. To which I say, first of all, are you people freaking serious? And then keep in mind, a lot of that criticism, especially the ones you're seeing on the internet, of Taco Trump, he caved to Iran, he backed off, are the very same people who were criticizing Trump for starting this conflict to begin with, now they're criticizing him for not finishing the job. I thought you guys wanted the war to de-escalate, right? Isn't that what you guys have been calling for? And then when it happens, you still criticize. It's almost like you're just a bad faith anti-Trump idiot, and that's really what controlling you. That's really what is controlling you, right? Not any true principles or anything like that. But of course, right, that is the brand new narrative, all because, by the way, this Iranian source who confirmed the talks, keep in mind, Iran previously said there were no talks, so they've already been caught lying. But now this Iranian source says, oh, well, the U.S. reached out to us first. And CNN, as you can see once again, is just running that as known fact, right? Yes, certainly, because the Iranians told us that America came first, that definitely 100% must be the truth. It is just laughable. And then, of course, last point I'd like to raise about this. Okay, so if America blinked because Trump said he was going to blow up the energy infrastructure and then he didn't, then has Iran not blinked thousands of times over the past even couple of years before the conflict here began, right? All the empty threats they've made across the world. They said they're going to do this, they do that. They haven't. You're talking about the same country that claims they killed like 5,000 American soldiers already through the course of this conflict, which they have not done. Is that not blinking, by the way? You know, is them backing off of new attacks from on Middle Eastern countries or energy infrastructure, all these things. Is that not blinking by Iran strategically? I guess not, right? I guess once again, you're watching from the media. Iran gets all the passes in the world, right? They're the best country ever. They can do nothing wrong, but, just America this, America that. Trump is caving, right? Just a bunch of bad faith actors, as you usually have seen. And of course, right, what is this current circus all about? Over negotiations, are they happening or are they not? Look, this shows American weakness. We know, guys, since the beginning of the war, the agenda by the media has been nonstop negativity and an attempt from the beginning to make it seem like Iran was somehow defeating America militarily, which we always knew was not true.
We've won this. This war has been won. The only one that likes to keep it going is the fake news. I mean, the New York Times, you read the New York Times, it's like we're not winning a war where they have no Navy and they have no Air Force and they have no nothing. And we literally have planes flying over Tehran and other parts of their country. They can't do a thing about it. For instance, if I want to take down that power plant, that very big, powerful power plant, they can't do a thing about it. It's like, take me. That's all they can do. And yet, if you read the New York Times or if you watch ABC fake news or NBC fake news, you'd say it's a close battle. It's not a close battle.
I mean, literally, we've wiped out their Navy, we've wiped out their Air Force, we've wiped out most of their military defenses. You currently have F-18s doing strafing runs over Iranian targets. You have the A-10 Warthog now being deployed to help clear the area around the Strait of Hormuz. What does that mean in the context of aerial warfare? It means that America has total air superiority, right? Because why is that? Because the A-10, for example, right? Very famous plane, very famous from the Gulf War and all that, but it flies low and it flies slow, right? Basically, the point is to like knock out tanks and insurgent vehicles and positions on the ground, right? That's its whole point. It's strafing. And the thing about doing strafing runs or low flying, slow flying kind of attacks like that is, yeah, if you have a military that can really mount anything against things flying in the air, right? Then you're a very easy target because you're slow, you're close to the ground, et cetera, et cetera. So that level of confidence in itself should show you the actual state of this war, at least from a conventional perspective, right? You could talk about the side effects of the conflict, such as, Iran essentially doing terrorism in the Strait of Hormuz, or the political ramifications, the economic. But to sit there and pretend as if this has not been a complete decimation on behalf of America towards Iran in the context of just a military engagement, then you're utterly delusional. But that is exactly what the media is, and that's, the narrative they tried to frame. And notice how basically all the headlines have been overwhelmingly negative. They don't talk about this stuff. To me, it seems like a pretty major headline to say, oh, we wiped out their freaking Navy. Oh yeah, a U.S. submarine sunk a warship with a torpedo for the first time in World War II. Since World War II, these seem like pretty major headlines, you would think. But, you know how the media obviously acts. And hilariously, their brand new line of questioning towards Trump, now that we're in at least a temporary ceasefire style negotiation sort of period here, is they're now asking, what makes you trust Iran How can you trust the Iranians? To which I say, hey, journalists, I think that's a question, given everything we've explained in this video, you should be asking yourself, right? Like, I'm just saying, but take a listen.
We can say, Jason, this is regime change, right?
What makes you trust them?
I don't trust anybody. I don't trust you. I mean, that's only because I know you. But if I didn't know you, I'd probably have more trust. But I don't trust anyone.
Why bother
Why
talking to them?
do you say that? Why do you say what makes you trust? Do you think I trust them? I don't trust them.
Then why bother talking to them?
Because they're going to make a deal.
It's just unreal. So first of all, they said, if you attack Iran's energy infrastructure and they attack back, then that'll cause a huge crisis. We could see a global recession. That's a bad idea. And then Trump says, okay, well, we're going to negotiate. And then the media says, you're lying. There's no negotiation. The war is going on forever. And then now that it's being proven that there is negotiation, why are you talking to Iran? You can't trust them. What do these people want? What do these people think should happen? I don't exactly know. I think probably the answer is they just want as much carnage for the Trump administration as possible, right? So they're probably rooting for us to have bomb the oil fields, and then Iran tries to strike back and then cause an even bigger energy crisis. I don't know. I don't know what these people want. Regardless, again, I repeat, it's just Trump derangement syndrome, right? So they're going to try to frame literally everything as a defeat, you know? If you go to war, that's a defeat. If you win the war, it's a defeat. If you try to engage in diplomacy, that's also a defeat. No clue, right? It's just incoherent. And by the way, to answer that fool's question, why would you trust Iran? You don't trust anyone. Yes, when you are making a deal or doing diplomatic relations. No, because it just doesn't work that way. You can't just shake hands with people and trust them. That also pertains to America's allies, by the way, like Canada, like Europe, et cetera, okay? The reason that there is any quote-unquote trust is obviously something called leverage, right? That's the whole point. Do you understand that that's how deal-making is actually conducted? It's not that complicated, but Trump further went on to explain that as well.
What was the turning point to make you want to pursue a ceasefire? A few days ago, you said you wanted to continue bombing Iran. Now you want to pursue peace talks. Was there something that happened?
The fact that they're talking to us and they're talking sense. And remember, it all starts with they cannot have a nuclear weapon. Just, I said yesterday, they said, what are the top 10? I said, well, number 1, 2, and 3 is they can't have a nuclear weapon. And they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. And we're talking about that. And I don't want to say in advance, but they've agreed they will never have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that. God, I can tell you they'd like to make a deal. And who wouldn't if you were there? Look. Their Navy's gone, their Air Force is gone, their communications are gone. That's the biggest problem. It's very hard to communicate them between themselves. All of the anti-aircraft is gone. Most of their missiles are gone. We either shot them or they shot them and don't have them anymore. They're down to a trickle. Pretty much everything they have is gone. I don't know. Can you name one thing that's not gone, or can you name one thing that's doing well? If you read the papers, you think we're tied. You think we're in a tough battle. We are roaming free over Tehran. If we can end this without more lives being down, without knocking out $10 billion electric plants that are brand new and the apple of their eye, I'd like to be able to do that, But they can't have certain things. I mean, you know the things. I don't have to go over the list, but again, it starts with no nuclear weapons, and they've agreed to that. There won't be any nuclear weapons. They're not going to have, and they're not going to have enrichment, any of those things. But look, I hate to say that we're in a very good bargaining position, and I hate to say that they're defenseless because, until that last missile is fired, they have little power. But we are in about the best bargaining position. We're way ahead of schedule. And again, they have no Navy and they have no Air Force and they have no missile protection, and most of their missiles are gone. Most of their launches we've killed. We've killed about 82% of their launches. So even if they had a missile, they can't launch it.
Yeah, so does that answer the journalist's stupid questions? I certainly hope. When you ask, why would Iran want to talk to us? I don't know, because we wiped out their military. We killed most of their top leaders. The remaining leaders don't want to be in the same position. America does have a lot of leverage. Now, if you listen to the media, you wouldn't think so, because you would think, oh, we've been ineffective against Iran. They're fighting till the end. We're doing nothing. They're still strong. The regime says it still exists, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, is it maybe possible that that's not the truth, okay? Is it maybe, heck, even if you want to say Trump is exaggerating his own position, okay, is it maybe possible the truth is somewhere in the middle? That maybe some damage has done to Iran enough to the point where America does have some leverage? I guess not. I guess not, according to the journalist, right? Now, as it pertains to these particular negotiations, we'll obviously see what happens. You know, nothing is done till it's done. There are currently some interesting signs coming out from them that I do want to discuss, but honestly, we'll save that for the next video because I think it deserves plenty of coverage of its own. But, you know, I'm just going to point out for now that, again, to the media, to the critics, yes, the negotiations are happening. And again, we'll talk about what's happening in them pretty soon, but just these people are, they're just, the level of cognitive dissonance is just insane, right? I don't understand where they got the idea. Even if they hate Trump, Trump would just make up this whole scenario, right? We talked to Iran and this happened and they said this and they, you know, he gave all these details too. He wasn't even vague about it. There's a particular person we're talking to. We think they're in charge. And that was all just manufactured. There was no truth to it. Iran wasn't even speaking because some Iranian on Twitter said they weren't speaking. It's like the most trusted name in news, by the way, according to these people. The real journalists, by the way. It's utterly ridiculous. But anyways, stay tuned because we got to talk about this much more. But until then, guys, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And until next time, God bless and peace.